Hello. Interesting full moon, in my humble opinion. I have kind of been grappling with it, and I wanted to come on here and see what kind of insights we can get about it from the tarot cards. I am traveling again, and it's not a candle house. So today we have plants to accompany us, and that is our kind of magic. And here we have the Golden Thread Tarot. This is the selection that I got from yesterday. My 2-card spread for myself was the Wheel of Fortune and the Page of Swords. Interesting that it should bring up some of the symbols that are inherent in this full moon, which is in both charts mostly controlled by a retrograde Mercury that is stationing direct today. So it's in its power and it controls the bulk of the charts. What I want to do right now is something a little bit different than I ordinarily do, because my energy is really high and my communication has been difficult, to say the least. Over the last couple of days, I have really noticed it. So I'm going to say a prayer, do the astrology, and then get started with the reading. I hope you'll indulge me with that. I've been trying to find Native American prayers that help me to feel more connected and grateful. And this one is a great one. Mitakuye Oyasin. To the Creator, for the ultimate gift of life, I thank you. To the mineral nation that has built and maintained my bones and all foundations of life experience, I thank you. To the plant nation that sustains my organs and body and gives me healing herbs for sickness, I thank you. To the animal nation that feeds me from your own flesh and offers loyal companionship in this walk of life, I thank you. To the human nation that shares my path as a soul upon the sacred wheel of earthly life, I thank you. To the spirit nation that guides me invisibly through the ups and downs of life, and for carrying the torch of light through the ages, I thank you. To the 4 winds of change and growth, I thank you. You are all my relations, my relatives, without whom I would not live. We are in the circle of life together, coexisting, codependent, co-creating our destiny, one not more important than the other, one nation evolving from the other, and yet each dependent upon the one above and the one below. All of us a part of the great mystery. Thank you for this life. May everyone with whom this come in contact with be blessed by the unity of the one being and learn to love beyond fear. Okay, so that connectedness is very much reflected in the chart. Here we have a moon that is square to Saturn, limitation, Neptune, the cosmic fog machine, and also square to the north node of the moon, ipso facto, the south node of the moon. In the tropical system, the tropical zodiac, this moon with all 3 of those oppositions sits in Gemini, and in the sidereal, it's exalted in Taurus. Now, in the tropical, we observe that this moon is trine Lilith, Adam's first wife, the one who would not submit to his will, and also conjunct a retrograde Jupiter. And the retrograde Mercury, which is stationing direct, is opposite the moon. Vastly complicated sky, you guys. I'm sorry, it's a lot. But I will try to put it down in the description box below if you're the astrology geek. And I will also add a link to the blog, which hopefully has some better explanation, although, like I said, communication is a little difficult right now. So I'm giving myself some grace with that. Now the sun is in a square from its opposition to the moon, which is what a full moon is, right? It's in a square to Neptune, and it's opposite this Mercury, which is retrograde and stationing direct today. Other notable oppositions in this sky, and they're kind of pain points, right? There's just a lot of them at this one. Mars is opposite retrograde Mars is opposite Venus, which is its own masculine and feminine loggerheads. But then add to that Mars in its retrograde, in its sign of detriment in both charts, is opposite to Pluto, the lord of the underworld, which is where the sun happens to be as it emerges over the 3 days prior to the 21st, where we have the solstice and the emergence of the new spiritual body, right? So all of this is kind of taking place. There's a light here in the darkness, and it is a wavering and backward, impaired sort of light. So the light is dim at this full moon, and the moon is at its most northern point in the sky for us. Furthermore, we got that retrograde Mars in trine with this very strong retrograde moving to stationary direct Mercury. So what does all of that mean? It means we have a vastly complicated sky to work with right now, and that we are probably really feeling this complication mentally, and if we allow ourselves physically. What can happen at times like these is that we can begin to communicate from our fear and from the places where we got hurt. And maybe that's why we have plants instead of candles and water this time, because we're kind of digging in the dirt. If we're doing the work, right, we're digging in the dirt of those old wounds that we've covered over just to get moving forward in our lives, to proceed. And we're needing to look at those again, because the actions that we've taken from our wounding, from the places where we got hurt, is what's holding us up. And what needs to happen over the course of the end of the next 2 weeks of this lunar cycle and into the next lunar cycle, which begins at the very first of the month in January, is that reckoning, that dealing with ourselves as we distance ourselves from the wound a little bit and try to get eyes on how that woundedness, how that trauma is driving the bus. In the 2 difficult communications that I've had recently, I've found lots of great ways to reflect on things that I have natural resistance from, that I am letting proceed unchecked. And I need to bring my attention to it so that I can own my part in the difficulty, right? Takes two to tango. I almost named the blog post Curious Tango instead of Standstill, which is really, all three of those things work very well together. If life is a movement and a rest, we're in the rest portion right now, and we want to be in the movement portion. So, light and dark plays out this way. What we have to do is find our place constructively in it, make sense of it in our minds and in our hearts, and find the star that's going to guide us in this new year. And I think this is a great time for contemplation of that. So, moving forward, Om Dum Durgaye Namaha, Om Shrim Mahalakshmiye Namaha, Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. And Namaha, not me, right? Let me move out of my twisted thoughts, my difficult Mercury, my hard communications right now, and forward into the unity of mind and nature. I wish that for all of us at this point in time. Okay, we'll do a Celtic cross today. And the significator card, the card that represents us in this reading, is the Two of Cups. And this is a little bit of that Mars-Venus opposition. And it's kind of a beautiful opposition. She's in a good place. He's not in a great place. And the thing that it brings, I love that it's rabbits, because the thing that it brings to me, oh, you guys, I'm sorry. It's not the Two of Cups, it's the Six of Cups. It's the nostalgia card. It's still, for me, the rabbit's about listening. And instead of bringing the one cup, as we would in the Two of Cups if I had gotten this correct, we each have this trinity of positive, negative, and neutral energy that we bring to all of our interaction with each other, right? And it's a really solid time for us to ground ourselves, root ourselves, be like little burrowing rabbits in the dirt, and find how we're going to use that cycle, the three gunas, the elements of the solstice, the sky father, the earth mother, and the neutral sun, and bring that into our relationships and our communication. And there's a sense in this card, in the six, of course, it's really hard to find a space for this. There's a sense of the past and bringing the past into the light of this solstice. And I really like how the golden thread cards are playing into this, although it may be a little bit wavering and difficult. It's just right for this moment in time. So this Six of Cups signifies us, our relationship to the past, our relationship to the three gunas, and how we bring that to our relating, to the subject-object relationship. We are crossed by, the four of Pentacles. And this is the hoarding card, pure and simple, right? This is capitalism. It even kind of looks like capitalism in the card. Scarcity of resources, being a spendthrift, wanting to keep all for ourselves instead of observing all of our relatives, sharing globally the bounty that was given to us in the earth. And the real economy of the earth being that you put one seed in the ground and you get 1,000 back is not being reflected in our systems right now. So this is crossing us. We're having a difficulty bringing spirit to matter, bringing love to our interactions, and we think in some way or are acting in some way like it's more beneficial to keep everything from others and keep it for ourselves instead of sharing the bounty of the earth. We are grounded in the foundation of this crossroads is the hermit, being drawn within and following the star. Each one of us having a star that we must follow brings us to this nexus, to this point. And this card tells me, it gives me a sense that this is a necessary crossroads. You know, maybe in the 6,000 years of patriarchy, we haven't been able to get this point between spirit and matter correct. But with enough introspection, perhaps this time we can. And because the card of introspection is at the bottom of the reading, it tells me that the depth that we've gained from Scorpio, the depth that we've gained from having Sun in Scorpio, and moving into, Sagittarius within days in the sidereal and recently in the tropical. Perhaps we can hope that we have gained sufficient depth on this problem of materiality, that we can bring our true union through this difficulty with sufficient depth. Now we are crowned by Five of Swords. Now this card is not a true battle. It is kind of wooden swords, right? Like the practice ground. And I like it in that regard, that we are learning how to practice a better distribution of wealth. And that's communication, and that's relationships, and that's love, and that's the way of being with the earth and the way of being as people. That's more beneficial, but we have to work on it. Where we have gained sufficient depth, now it's time for us to practice technical proficiency and being in actual communication with each other about these issues of hoarding and the love and nostalgia that we would like to have more of, have depth of going forward. But it requires negotiation and diplomacy and skill. And the only way that we're going to get that is by actually doing that. We have to put that into practice. It's a very much 3 days of sitting with the problem, kind of I Ching full moon, where we need to decide what hill we want to die on and how we're going to be sure that we're heard through the difficulty of spirit and matter in that. Now we're moving away from the Emperor. And let me just take a liberty with this and say this is Empire, right? This is all for me, none for you. I have gathered up all the riches. You know, I know it's not an upside down emperor, it's not a difficult emperor, but it sings patriarchy to me right now. And that's probably because he's holding everything, and we have a holding card crossing us. You know, this kind of, if it's not a good attitude, this kind of attitude is about conquest and domination. And moving away from that in our personal relationships, in our depth psychology, in our ways of dealing with ourselves, and certainly in our interaction and communication with others, can only be a benefit to this process of bringing spirit to matter and bringing matter to spirit. It can't be a hierarchy. It needs to be a collaboration. And, you know, the emperor is top down in charge. It is a hierarchy. So good for us to move into more collaborative, more diplomatic, even if it's difficult, ways of being that comes from our depth and responds to our crossroads. We're moving toward, yay, the Ace of Cups. A new beginning in emotion. And I really feel that this is a very emotionally stagnant place that we have reached at this full moon. I like that we're moving toward a new understanding, a new emotional understanding, and that means embodiment. That means that we have to embody, we have to feel it, right? May I feel all I need to heal and heal all I need to feel. And I know, I'm very aware right now that I'm not a law of attraction person. I'm not a manifestation person. And actually one of the difficult conversations that I've had have been around that. I want to feel everything. I don't care if it hurts. I'm accepting that there's going to be sadness in this, and I'm not going to cling to sadness and make it suffering, but I want to feel fully what I need to move forward out of the impasse with matter, right? I need a collaborative way forward, because otherwise we're destroying the planet and we're killing the way forward for the next generation of people whom I care about. I care. I want a new way of caring here. And it looks like that's what's out ahead of the solstice, this moment of darkness that leads toward the light. I'm not the only one who thinks about it that way. There's like billions of people on the planet who celebrate the solstice, and it predates Christianity. So we have lots of light coming. It's just, can we stand the glare? So what we are becoming from this nostalgic communion, we are moving toward the Five of Cups. There will be some loss. If we move from a 6 to a 5, we're going to lose some of the material comfort as we move into this diplomatic, from a hierarchical to a streamlined singularity of understanding, a more inclusive way of loving. Now, what everybody mentions about this card is that, yes, 3 of the cards are knocked over, but two cups still remain. And that's what I thought that card was, right? I thought that was the 2 of Cups, because it's a tango. It's a romance. It is not a battle. And when you have 5 cups, it's a war. When you have 2 cups, there's the possibility of understanding. And look at her. She's humbled. There's humility there. There's introspection. It's forced. Yeah, it's forced. It comes from not having a winner take all attitude. It comes from of a more collaborative attitude. But it is there's a way in which we're forcing ourselves into that place. And the unconscious will bring us to where we have to be. No two ways about it. And when we talk about the moon, we do talk about the unconscious, right? So while there will be, or we're becoming a kind of being that accepts losses as instruction. Someone who can be guided by what is instead of what they want. You know, I want all 5 cups. I want all the pentacles. Well, you can't have that, but can you still carry on? No, life is not fair, but can you still be happy here? Can you find Santosha? That's the kind of creature we're becoming. One that accepts, one that understands. Humbly. All around us, the possibility of rest. You know, when you come away from the battle, the winner takes all battle, you can find meditation. You can find peace of mind. You can find the 4 of Swords. And, you know, I really think of this whole manifesting thing as a way to keep the mind busy and satisfied while we wait for the next thing to happen. Because we're not really the doers here. And in meditation, we give up this projected intent, this purposeful intention, and we let the world be what it is. This is my watch the movie card, right? It's a card of detachment. And there's positive detachment and there's negative detachment. And if we're moving toward care, we need to have the kind of detachment where we protect ourselves, but at the same time, we allow the feelings, right? We allow the depth of what we need to feel. We just don't carry it into the next moment. We don't proceed like we can affect anything other than ourselves in this world. We don't get to keep that kind of power. We may have it for a short period of time, but imperial colonialism is being reckoned with. And doing that in a thoughtful and careful way is about the best that we're going to be able to do. I'm glad that that is around us. I hope that it is protective to all of the people who are exploited. And that's all I want to say. Okay, our hopes and fear, collaboration. The 3 of Cups. Lots of emotional cards here that are guiding us toward deeper feeling and also toward this kind of unity in diversity. There's a way in which that all 3 parts of the Trinity scare us, right? We don't want to include the negative with the positive to come to the neutral, but we must. That is how the circuit is completed. That is how the sun and the earth interact to create the progress of our lives. And it's very important that we be able to live life fully without editing, right? That's not what we're here for. We're here for the full catastrophe, the joy and the ache. I hope we have the capacity to enjoin that, to make that more a part of our lives, and less this, I'm going to put my order into the universe world, because that kind of denial is leading us straight off the cliff, in my humble opinion. And, you know, it's my opinion, so my channel, I get to say it. The outcome card that will join this, you know, dispute negotiation, fulfillment of a new way of feeling, which often comes after a disagreement, right? Oh, the Eight of Swords. Looks like we've got more reckoning to do before we are able to move into constructive collaboration. Looks like we have internal work to do. This is described by one of my favorite card readers as the voluntary blindness card. And it doesn't bode well for my campaign against the law of attraction, does it? It looks like, you know, we are going to have a lot of grappling with the I want what I want tendency inside of us. But this card is hopeful. You know, the Nine of Swords that comes after it is kind of a victim card. And the Seven of Swords that comes before it is kind of a perpetrator card. But this is a suffering card. And we suffer voluntarily. Now, hear me out. The Buddhists have a way of describing suffering as the second arrow. There will always be pain on this planet. And that's my issue with law of attraction. It doesn't account for the pain that will be here. But we don't have to carry that pain forward. You know, this is the trammel, the imprisonment of someone who says it is what it is as a mantra. It's always going to be Capricornian. It's always going to be the world of imperialism because it is what it is. The powers that be are too strong for me to fight it. But if you look at the Rider-Waite card anyway, this is her own mental construction. She could take off the blindfold, she could unbind her hands, and she could walk away from these swords. If she can find the way internally to do that, it will require depth. It will require detachment from materialism. It will require coming to the table in an equal way. We don't have that right now, but we have to find it. And we need to move forward from the heart. We can't continue to suffer the losses that the mind imposes on us. We have to discipline the mind with our compassion and with our collaboration. So from mental stagnation, the stagnation of the 3 days of sun standstill before the solstice on the 21st, we have constructive disagreement. We have moving from winning at all costs toward diplomacy, collaboration, and practicing little constructive fights. Like we may have to argue a bit to come to a new understanding, a new way forward of the heart. Bottom of the deck, the Steady Eddie card. This is the Knight of Pentacles, right? Instead of hoarding, he has learned to slowly and steadily build. I think this is a great place, this solstice, full moon, northernmost point in the sky, 3 days of standstill, to accept that we watch the moon because this is a process and we're in a process. Don't take a photograph and decide this is who and what you are. Don't remain in the stagnation of it is what it is. Become the type who can accept loss and difficulty. Expand your capacity beyond I get what I want, beyond your material life. Because I've got to tell you, when you follow that star into the depth, you find an enduring way forward. May you find your stamina. May you find your way forward. Thank you for your attention.